ما تسقى العطش كربلاء كربلاء ظامئا عند الفرات كربلاء بلا ما تسقى العطش كربلاء ظامئا عند الفرات من عصور غابرات وأنا أسعى إليك برعم الدرب حياة حين دلاني عليك أنا يا عباس آمال بفجر مقلتيك سكبتها الشمس دفئا سكبتها الشمس دفئا وضياء في يديك أنا نزف من سنين سبحت في ودجيك ضع عروقي وعيوني تحت ضع عروقي وعيوني تحت مسرى قدميك ظامئا عند الفرات كربلاء ما تسقى العطاش كربلاء كربلاء ظامئا عند الفرات بلا جئتك اليوم ووردي حائر بين الفلات وزع العمر بشطي ولم يدر الحياة ها أنا جئتك وجدا وهياء وصلاة ها أنا جئتك أبكي وعلى إثر البكاء أرسلتني لك أشواق وآمال ضمات بعثتها في مسيلي لك أروح الأباد بين كفيك تلبي فتلبي القطرات أنا يا مولاي عبد أنا مولاك الفرات أنا يا مولاي عبد أنا مولاك الفرات ما تسقى العطاش كربلاء ظامئا عند الفرات كربلاء أنا جئت فأوقف وسط مجرك المسيل أنا سقاء العطاش أنا رواء الغليل أنا بدر في صراط صار للفضل دليل أنا جود وعطاء وهدير وصليل هاك يمنى يترشف فالكرامات تسيل صف قطراتك حولي فأنا كف الجليل وأنا عزم عليه يتفرع المستحيل ووجود في هواه سدرة الخلد تميل ما تسقى العطاش كربلاء ظامئا عند الفرات كربلاء كربلاء ما تسقى العطاش كربلاء ظامئا عند الفرات سوف أهديك يقيني وأنا الصلب اليقين وأغاديك لفتحي وأنا وثر السنين سترى الجيش حصيلا في رحاهة اليدين وسأذروه هشيما وأنا شبل البطين وأنا موت المنايا وأنا ليث العرين وإذا عز فداء ودنا النصر المبين سوف أعطيك سقائي ويساري واليمين وأرويك نجيعي من جبيني والوتين ما تسقى العطاشا ظامئا عند الفرات ما تسقى العطاش ظامئا عند الفرات
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. كلا بل لا تكرمون اليتيم ولا تحاضون على طعام المسكين وتأكلون التراث أكلا لما وتحبون المال حبا جما كلا إذا دكت الأرض دكا دكا وجاء ربك والملك صفا صفا وجيء يومئذ بجهنم يومئذ يتذكر الإنسان وجيء يومئذ بجهنم يومئذ يتذكر الإنسان وأنى له الذكرى يقول يا ليتني قدمت لحياتي فيومئذ لا يعذب عذابه أحد ولا يوثق وثاقه أحد يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي صدق الله العلي العظيم.
بھیا میں آ گئی ہوں، نانا کدی بچا کے، بھیا میں آ گئی ہوں، نانا کدی بچا کے، جاؤں گی اب مدینہ، چہلوں تیرا منا کے، بھیا میں آ گئی ہوں، نانا کا دین بچا کے۔ معلوم ہے یہ تم کو زینب اجڑ چکی ہے، لیکن تیری شہادت گھر گھر پہنچ گئی ہے، شاباش دو بہن کو بھیا گلے لگا کے، بھیا میں آ گئی ہوں، نانا کدی بچا کے، بھیا تمہاری زینب اب وہ نہیں رہی ہے، پہچان لوگے مجھ کو، حالت بدل گئی ہے، چلتی ہے یہ ضعیفہ، بھیا کمر جھکا کے، بھیا میں آ گئی ہوں، نانا کدی بچا کے، سجاد اور باقی دیں گے گواہی میری، کھائے ہیں تازیانے بنت علی نے پھر بھی، لے آئی شامیوں سے وارث تیرا بچا کے، بھیا میں آ گئی ہوں، نانا کدی بچا کے، کیسے بتاؤں بھیا بازار میں جو گزری، کہتے تھے سب کے مارو یہ ہے علی کی بیٹی، بابا کے بھی میں بدلے سب آئی ہوں چکا کے، بھیا میں آ گئی ہوں، نانا کدی بچا کے، امت نے تجھ پہ بھائی رونے کہاں دیا ہے، جی بھر کے میں نے تیرا ماتم کہاں کیا ہے، روئے گی آج زینب فرش عذاب بچھا کے، بھیا میں آ گئی ہوں، نانا کدی بچا کے، بھیا میں آ گئی ہوں، نانا کدی بچا کے، جاؤں گی اب مدینہ چلوں تیرا منا کے، بھیا میں آ گئی ہوں، نانا کدی بچا کے۔
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدركه بعد الحمم ولا يناله غوص الفطن، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد، اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين صاحب العصر والزمان خليفة الرحمن إمام الإنس والجان، ولعن الله أعداهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله وقوله الحق، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والذين جاهدوا فينا لنهدينهم سبلنا وإن الله لمع المحسنين، صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. We send our condolences to the Imam of our time and to Sayyidah Fatima Zahra salamu alayha on the night and the shab of the day of Arbaeen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our grief and our gham and give us no grief or gham except for that of Ali Muhammad. Last night, in your presence, virtually, I guess, we talked a little bit about spiritual elitism. And as somewhat of a preliminary discussion, I kind of laid out the problem last night that we are individuals as Shias that, and not everyone, mind you, that believe that simple admiration, simple acknowledgement of the Imams is enough for us to be elite in the hereafter. To the point we can look down on others, we can ridicule them, we can judge them, we can assign them to the hellfire, and we have all the prescriptions and the solutions and the cures for others, but we don't have it for ourselves. In the process now, we end up now becoming complacent believers. Think about it. If I think for a moment that what I have in the hereafter is lot, guaranteed, nothing I can do is going to mess that up, I'm not going to really try as hard in this world. And we talked about the hadith of Imam Ali, don't be like those who have the hope of the hereafter, بغير amal, without doing anything. We talked about the Bani Israel tribe of Nabi Musa alayhi salam, where Allah saying, look, if you want this land, you have to go get it. Go and put forth the effort. Pay the price now for your own salvation, your own freedom. And the point from last night was the idea that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a merit-based God. And whatever He gives us, or whatever we attain, whether it be in this world or in the next, is all based on merit. Now, if He decides to give you more than perhaps the actual value is, that's up to Him. But whatever you've achieved, I've achieved, or whatever I'm going to achieve or not achieve in the hereafter, all of it is due to my work ethic, or the lack of. This notion that sometimes I hear from the pulpits in discussions on different online groups where, we just put forth in the bare minimum as Shias, and, we will be in the highest level in Jannah only because we accept Ghadir to be the announcement of the wilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen. As much as that is a blessing of Allah, as much as that is a moment of celebration for us, it doesn't equate automatically to emulation. And we want to, like I said last night, I'll say it again, the path of eternal salvation travels through not the admiration of the Ahlul Bayt, but of the emulation of the Ahlul Bayt to the best of our ability. Okay? Now tonight, as I promised you last night, we'll look at the idea that how do I achieve this now, Sayyid? How do I do it? Fine, I get it that, I shouldn't be that lax. I shouldn't think that there's already a palace waiting for me in heaven. I have a one-way boarding pass printed already, even though someone like me has done the bare minimum. I show up a couple of times of the year in Ashura, let's say, for example, or the nights of Qadr, or the big nights. But every other day of the year, I pretty much live the life the way that my nafs wants it. I want it. I sometimes fight it. I sometimes pray salat. My salat is very sort of like quick and like hollow. How do I achieve that? Now, let's examine this to the Qur'an. Okay. Let me go through some verses from Surah An'am of the story of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. Okay. Last night we talked about an excerpt from the story of Nabi Musa. Tonight in your khidmat, in your presence, I want to go through a few verses of the story from Surah An'am of Nabi Ibrahim. And these are 10 verses from 73 to 83, I believe, of Surah An'am that, at least in Alama Tabatabai, Rahmatullah Alayhi's Tafsir al-Mizan, he has a completely separate discussion of these 10 verses by themselves. Because these are those 10 verses that are essentially the argument of Nabi Ibrahim against the idol worshippers of the time. Now very quickly, a very quick history of Nabi Ibrahim, very, very quickly, just so I can kind of set up the verses, like I did last night. Before the birth of Nabi Ibrahim, Namrud now, the tyrant of that time, he had a right-hand man who was an astrologer. His name was Asad. They say one day Asad was looking up to the sky and he's reading the stars and he saw something that worried him. He's reading the stars and the stars are telling him that a boy will be born in this very kingdom, in this very era, that will be the downfall of Namrud and his entire kingdom. Of course, once he sees these stars, he goes running towards Namrud. Namrud tells him what he saw, and Namrud right away now places down a hukam that all newborn baby boys are to be killed. In fact, he asked Asad, has this newborn baby, is he inside the womb of his mother? And he said, no, not yet. So right away he ordered, Namrud did, to separate all husbands and wives away from each other. So there is no possibility of anybody now bearing a child. The announcement is made, everybody is there, and because Asad, of course, is the uncle of Nabi Ibrahim, he is not the father of Nabi Ibrahim, and of course that's a different proof altogether. Our Ahlul Sunnah brothers believe that Asad is the father of Nabi Ibrahim, and that's due to the fact that he's referred to as an Ab of Nabi Ibrahim inside the Quran. But the word Ab doesn't always necessarily mean father. Anyways, our biggest dalil, our biggest proof as Shi'as is that we do not believe that the lineage of any prophets has any hint or instance of idol worshipping in it. Asad was the brother of the father of Nabi Ibrahim. Now, this rule didn't apply to Asad and his family because he's the king's right hand. So Nabi Ibrahim's parents were able to be together. Nabi Ibrahim now is inside the womb of his mother, and he is born. A male is born, and right away he is asked to now go. His mother, I believe her name was Sarah, if I'm not mistaken, now is asked to place the baby inside the cave for sheer protection. For the first 13 years of his life, he spent, Nabi Ibrahim, inside of the cave. In that process, he lost his father. And when he comes out now, a young man at 13, Asad takes him under his wing. That I am now your guardian, your father's no longer with us, and as his brother, I look after my nephew. Okay. So the story says that he took Nabi Ibrahim first to the temple of idols. Now, he's been in the cave for 13 years. First time he's seeing now physically a temple of idols. Walks in now, looks at all these idols, and these are individuals who are praying to those idols, asking those idols, crying to those idols, begging the idols, and is waiting and looking at the idols, and he does not see any idol responding. After a while, a 13-year-old boy is asking these men, grown men who are worshiping these idols, that do these idols see you? Do they hear you? Are they responding to you? Do you feel like they're answering your prayers? He begins to question. And right away, Asad, because they all look at him, so, who is this boy you brought questioning our faith? Asad takes him out to the temple and says, look, what are you doing? He goes, uncle, you believe in these idols? This is illogical. How can you pray to this idol that can't even hear you or see you or respond to you? And he says, these are minor idols. We have major gods, and I'll take you to those major gods. Now comes the verses now. So this process now of the debates takes a few days. The first thing that he sees or is shown on this mountaintop by these individuals who are the elders of the community, and of course his uncle Asad, is a star in the sky, a kawkab in the sky. He sees it. قَالَ هَذَا رَبِّي. Is this my Lord? Nabi Ibrahim is asking. And he sees everybody now is pointed towards this one bright star, worshiping him, praying to the star, calling out to the star, having their own ritualistic whatever they have worship. But then as the sun begins to rise, the star begins to disappear. And right away, Nabi Ibrahim says, how can I believe in a God that half the time is there, half the time is not there? He says, I don't like this. That same night, the next night over now, he comes to a mountaintop again, brought to by another group, and this time he sees the moon, the qamar. قَالَ هَذَا رَبِّي. Is this my Lord? Again, it becomes the one now who is gone. The next morning now, he sees the rising of the sun. He sees this sun, the bright sun, giving energy, giving light, giving warmth, being able now to illuminate and enlighten the entire now area around him. قَالَ هَذَا رَبِّي. Is this my Lord? Now, why didn't he say هَذِهِ رَبِّي? Because, Shams and sun is a feminine a word inside Arabic. That's a different discussion, and that's also in tafsir as well. But now slowly he begins to see the sun is setting. And again, he applies the exact same logic. And now after seeing the star, the moon, the sun disappear for half the day, he turns and says, what are you doing here? What is this? Who are you worshiping? And begins to challenge these individuals. Now the Quran says that there is a discussion, there is a back and forth. Basically, at the end of the day, these elders are asking Nabi Ibrahim to fear these idols. Fear the star, fear the moon, fear the sun. Be careful of your words. You could be causing a lot of damage for yourself. These are powerful entities that you are challenging right now. And before that now, while he rejects all of these one by one, the star, the moon, and the sun, it's at that moment in these verses, in Surah An'am, where now he says that very famous verse that a lot of us say before our prayer. Sometimes you've heard the Imam al-Jama'ah say it before he begins his salat. Inni wajjahtu wajhiya lilladhi fatara samawati wal ard hanifa wa ma ana min al-mushrikeen. I now turn my face, I turn myself, meaning what? I submit completely to what? To the Fatir samawati wal ard, the one who is the originator of the heavens and the earth, meaning Allah. And I'm not an idol worshiper. And then he says something very beautiful to the idol worshippers. Such a logical discussion. Verse number 81 from Surah An'am. He goes, you want me, you're asking me to fear these idols. Fear the star, fear the moon, fear the sun, fear these idols in that temple. None of them can hear me, respond to me, see me, answer my du'as. All this you've set up. You've set up with your own intellect, your own reasoning, your own sort of, logic. He goes, well, how can you ask me? وَكَيْفَ أَخَافُ مَا أَشْرَكْتُمْ? You're asking me to fear all this? At the same time, وَلَا تَخَافُونَ أَنَّكُمْ أَشْرَكْتُمْ بِاللَّهِ. But you have not feared Allah. So you want me to fear your man-made idols, but you don't fear the ultimate God. Remember, these were people who believed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who believed in Him to be a God, but they believed in Him to be the God of gods, a Lord of lords. And these smaller lords, be it the star, the moon, the sun, these idols inside the temple, were all meant to be connectors or smaller lords or gods to the actual God Himself. So he says, you want me to fear these smaller gods while you don't fear the actual God itself. Doesn't make sense to me. And who gave you this authority? Ma'alam yunazzil bihi alaykum sultana. Who gave you this sultanate, this authority to do this, to come in now and worship the star and worship the moon and claim that this is going to lead us to the bigger God? Meanwhile, me, I'm going straight to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm not somebody who's going to play around. No, inni wajjahtu wajhiya lilladhi. I have turned myself in a state that I am Hanifa, I am upright, I'm staunch, I'm not going to bend or break or apologize. And then he asks a very interesting question in verse number 81 of Surah An'am. فَأَيُّ الْفَرِيقَيْنِ أَحَقُّ بِالْأَمْنِ. Of these two groups, one group is me, where I now will forsake the smaller idols and these idols, but I will not forsake Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What you have done, you have forsaken Allah for the sake of these idols that can hear you or can see you or can't respond to you. Of these two groups, of these fariqain, of these two groups, which ones now ahaqqa bil aman? Which ones now have more of this spiritual aman and security? Makes sense. And then the verse right after, in verse number 82, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَلَمْ يَلْبِسُوا إِيمَانَهُمْ بِظُلْمٍ. Those who believe and they don't mix up their faith with injustice. لَمْ يَلْبِسُوا إِيمَانَهُمْ بِظُلْمٍ. They don't cover their iman. يَلْبِسُوا labasa, libas, clothing. They don't cover their what? إِيمَانَهُمْ بِظُلْمٍ. With dhulm, with oppression. You create this whole system now. You've attached idols to God. You've ascribed partners to Him. All that without any authority whatsoever from the actual God. Allah did not come down and tell you, oh, by the way, if you can't reach me, you can reach me through the stars. You can worship the sun, the moon, these idols. You can. No, you did it all by yourself. This was you. All this whole setup was you. So when Nabi Ibrahim is asking him which one of these two groups now, they have a greater authority over aman and security and spiritual safetyness. Allah says there are ones الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَلَمْ يَلْبِسُوا إِيمَانُهُمْ بِظُلْمٍ. Those who do this, أُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمُ الْأَمْنُ. For them, there is this security and this safety. وَهُمْ مُهْتَدُونَ. And they are people who are absolutely guided. Now, the question I have for you as I take off my glasses is what is the khulasa and summary of all this? Why did I bring this up in this topic? It's very simple. In order for Nabi Ibrahim, and he's saying this, for us to get to a level of security in our iman. All I wanted from last night for myself is a level of security for my iman. I don't want to be shocked in the hereafter. I don't want to be fooled in the hereafter. I don't want to think that I'm going to walk into heaven, meanwhile I'm in for something else. I don't want to be delusional. I want aman. I want security, I want safety, I want protection. I want to be able to be serene and secure in my faith. How do I do that? Nabi Ibrahim says, you must now reject and forsake all the idols inside of you. He gave examples of outward idols, the idols of the temple, right? The star, the moon, the sun. Reject all those, reject all those, reject all those. And then you come to the idea, Inni wajjahtu wajhi lilladhi fatara samawati wal ard hanifa. Now, you understand? And now I've turned my face towards that originator, who is of the heavens and the earth. وَمَا أَنَا مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. I'm not like you. I don't worship idols. So it takes the breaking of the idols to get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now we understand. La ilaha, la ilaha, la ilaha illallah. No ilah, no ilah, no ilah, no small g gods, no small g gods, no idols, no stones, no sun, no moon, no water, no fire, none of that. When you remove all of that, what remains is illallah, is Allah Azza wa Jal. So when it comes to us, a lot of us, we don't have outward idols. I like to think we don't have statues in our homes that we bow down to and do sajda to. I like to think we don't wake up in the morning and consider the sun to be my Rabb. I like to think a lot of us don't bow down or pray to the moon. No. But there are idols inside of us. There are small g gods inside of us. And we must break those one by one in order to reach the true essence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look, it's quite symbolic, right? The Fatah Mecca, the conquest of Mecca in the 8th year of Hijri. And the Holy Prophet now conquers Mecca. There are two things that are quite historic that he does. There are many things at that moment that he does, but two of them at least, is the breaking of the idols in the surrounding areas, and of course by the Kaaba. And then the call of the adhan of Bilal Habashi on top of the Kaaba. And while Imam Ali is breaking the idols inside and outside the Kaaba, while each idol is being broken down, each idol, each ilah, each small G God is being destroyed and removed from the Bayt of Allah. When they're removed, then Bilal calls the adhan. Yani Ali break the idols, break the ilahs, and then Bilal call out to Allah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. But that adhan would not happen before the breaking of the idols. And part of the small g gods inside of us, the idols inside of us, is this egotistical elitism we have, where we look down on others simply because of my last name, I'm sorry. Or if I wear a black turban, let's say, for example. Whereas the Qur'an says, Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. There's nothing close to Allah except for piety. Piety doesn't have color. Piety has no creed. Piety has no gender. Nothing. Piety is your amal, what you do. And the Quran says, "Man dhakarin aw untha wa huwa mu'min." If these amal salih, these good deeds come from a woman, a man, or a woman, so long as they are a mu'min, they can absolutely expect a hayat that's tayyib, a pure life, and an ajr that is adim, that's kabir, that's big. How do I do that? How do I control that ego? How do I avoid myself from feeling I'm better than anybody else? And while there's 1,000 things that there are that's out there, one thing I want to point to all of you to is something called micro-compassion. Micro-compassion. Not macro-compassion. Those are large acts of compassion. It's the small acts of compassion that I think, maybe I'm wrong, has kind of lost its way inside society. Right? We all know what microaggressive behavior is, right? We all know those small little acts of aggression sometimes. There are some people who are passive aggressive in their comments. There are some people who like to kind of make pinching remarks, right? That's a very nice shirt. I mean, I wouldn't buy that shirt if it was me, but hey, if that's your color, Bismillah. You know, you just stop at it's a nice shirt. Why do you have to add a few things here and there? You know, passive aggressive comments, microaggression, small things that point and pick and prick and pull at people. And by the way, it's so small microaggressive, that microaggressive behavior that sometimes breaks apart marriages, that breaks apart communities, that causes friction between siblings and cousins and families and friends. It's not one massive thing sometimes that breaks apart a marriage. It's small everyday things. It's small little comments, small little things, right? It's the gaslighting. It's doing things that you know will cause a reaction inside of your spouse, and then when they do react, you get all upset at that reaction. Baba, you caused that reaction, man. You lit that match, and then you're like, oh wow, there's a fire there. Oh really? So that's all micro. That's all stuff that we call microaggression. The opposite of that is micro-compassion. Small acts of compassion. And those of you who have studied the mission of the Holy Prophet across 23 years, an impeccable, absolutely miraculous mission of his, that what he was able to do across 2.5 decades with that people against that enemy is nothing short of a miracle. Now, there are many reasons why he was successful. The sword of Imam Ali, the sakhawat and the generosity of Bibi Khatija, absolutely, those are all there. One other thing was the micro-compassion of the Holy Prophet. There were moments where he was, on a grand scale, compassionate, merciful, loving. The same Fateh Mecca I talked about, the conqueror of Mecca. He arrives. This is the moment now he can avenge Abu Sufyan and his like. This is the moment now where you can really, make the person who puts you through utter and absolute difficulties, now make them feel the pain that they caused you. But the Prophet chose to announce that Abu Sufyan, you and your people are safe in Mecca. On a macro level, on a big level. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا. When that big victory comes, you'll see the men enter the deen afwaja. Loads and loads and loads and loads. And part of that was the moment of macro compassion. But it was the small things the Prophet did. Those small things are good for our ego, I tell you, my sisters and my brothers. Small things. I'll give you a couple examples. A few examples. Going out of your way for somebody. When's the last time any of us went out of our way for somebody? What I mean by that is that it's one thing where, let's say, for example, you say, brother, can you pick me up on the way to the center? Let's say, for example, I don't have a car. I want to come to the program. I live on your street. You drive by me every single day. I will literally just kind of be at outside my house. If you slow down, I'll hop in your car and you go. You don't even have to change your route. That's not what zahmat is. That's not what inconvenience is. Okay? Effort is that somebody needs a ride home. This guy lives 10 minutes out of your way, 10 minutes out of your way, and you say, sure, I'll drop you home. And you go 10 minutes out of your way one way, 10 minutes back, there's 20 minutes now out of your way, but you never make that person feel like, oh, you know what, I'll drop you off, but it's completely out of my way, but that's okay, I'll drop you off. I am tired, I've had a long day, but that's okay, brother, hop in the car. Who would want to, I'd rather pay a taxi fare than sit in the car with you with all your little microaggressive comments. If you want to drop me off, drop me off. Don't add little mirchi, masala, namak, salt, this and that. Baba, it's okay. I don't need the commentary. You want to do it? Do it. Drop the person off now. You wait until they're inside the house. They'll turn around. They'll wave hello. You wave goodbye. The most they'll do is du'as for you. Go out of your way for people. Go 20 minutes out of your way. Kya ho jayega bhai? As they say in Urdu. What qayamat will come if you go 20 minutes out of your way? The Holy Prophet would move his entire body towards you when he would speak to you. If, of course, you are somebody who's mahram to him. Look you in the eye, never cut you off, never interrupt you. Let you know that whatever you're saying to me is of utmost importance. Would never sit against the wall with his feet out. Nowadays, mashallah, I've been inside majalis. Oh, from the corner you see the father's legs are out, mashallah, and the son's legs are out, mashallah, like they're on the beach. Sun tanning. They're not in the majlis of Aba Abdullah al-Husayn. When's the last time you opened the door for somebody? When's the last time you asked the cashier, how are you doing today? Is everything okay? When's the last time you let somebody into the lane while you were driving? When's the last time, just the last time now, you said salam first to your child? Hugged them, smiled at them, made them feel like they're the best kids in the world. When's the last time you turned to your spouse and told her how beautiful she is, how lucky you are to have her as a wife? These are micro, compassionate acts of worship. Not only will it increase, your social, your marriage, your family, it'll strengthen those areas around you. At the same time, it'll humble you as well. Inshallah, when our masajid open up, do your best. Pick up the shoes that are sitting at the door, put them on the shelf. It's okay if they're not your shoes. Oh, want a COVID? Okay. Add a glove, add some sanitizer. You'll be all right. Don't worry about it. Go out of your way for people. I'll go out of my way for somebody. Make them feel like, look, doesn't matter if it's 20 minutes out of their way, half an hour out of your way. No. Otherwise, there are some people, okay, I'll drop you off up until here. You can walk the rest of the way. Baba, it's 11 o'clock at night. It's a 15-minute walk. Yeah, bro, if I drop you, I have to take three rights, a couple of lefts. You know what? It's just really going to be difficult for me. I can bring you up until here. Okay. Thank you very much. Micro, small acts. Those small acts now begin to build up. And even with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's those micro acts of worship, the everyday small acts that build our path towards Him. I'm sorry to say, going to Hajj once a year, once a lifetime, fasting even in the month of Ramadan, 1 month a year, is good, is great. Alhamdulillah, it's a wajib act. You do it, mashallah, may Allah accept it. It's the everyday, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينَ. It's the everyday of making sure that I don't do ghibat and backbiting. It's the everyday of my akhlaq with my family. It's the everyday of making sure that my eyes are controlled. It's everyday making sure my ears don't hear things I shouldn't be hearing. It's the everyday small little acts of worship that really build our path towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam Ali says, what is more beloved in the eyes of Allah are small acts of worship done consistently. Not large acts done inconsistently. These are all small G gods inside of us. They're telling us, look, don't go out of your way for anybody. What will that gain you? Gas prices are up, for example. Your car isn't in the best of shape. You had a long day. This guy can find a ride home. Go home and get some sleep, man. It's not your responsibility to make sure this brother gets home or this sister gets home. This individualistic world that we live in, this me, ana, is destroying us. These are idols, my brothers. These are the stars and the suns and the moons and the idols of Nabi Ibrahim's time. And we must reject them, remove them. We must do what Nabi Ibrahim did. Inni wajahtu wajhiya lilladhi fatara samawati wal ard. Turn your face towards Allah. Reject all those idols. La ilaha illallah. Humble yourself in front of the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Serve, khidmah. Be a khadim of the people. Such that if they need anything, they know the first person to call is you. Imagine now being that person. And you know people like that. Whenever we call this brother, oh, he is there. He will arrange. If he can't do it, he'll get it done. I'll never understand the idea of not going out of your way for some people. You know, we live in a very, very me-centric world. Everything, the branding, the consumerism, the social media, the content creators, the influencers, all of that is about me. How can I sell me? How can I sell me? How can I sell me? In the process now we end up worshiping ourselves subconsciously. Anything that might cause harm to me, I'm not going to do. Anything that might put me out of the way. It might tire me. It might, ask a lot from me. I'm not going to do it. But just so I feel better about myself, yeah, I'll drop in here, I'll drop. Small acts. Small acts. When the last time you texted anybody on your phone? Just checking in, saying salam. I don't require anything from you, no but, nothing. Go through your contacts on your phone. Pick out 3 or 4 or 5 people from your community who you haven't seen in a very long time. The elders, let's say for example, your friends. You know how good it feels for me when I get a message from just some random uncle, some random brother from the community, saying, we miss you, everything is doing well, hope you guys are well. That's it, sending you my love and du'as. It makes my day, it makes my week. That somebody now, even though I'm out of sight, I'm in their hearts. Goes a long way. Micro compassionate acts. Small little compassionate acts. It's good for the ego. It doesn't bring about this elitism. I'm too good for that. No, humble yourself. Because the reality is that when we begin to emulate the path of the Ahlul Bayt, we understand how absolutely low we are. And we want to work that emulation. If we truly emulate the true akhlaq of the Ahlul Bayt, we don't have these high expectations of some mahal and palace of diamonds and gold and rubies in heaven. No, absolutely not. The night before the day of Ashra, Imam Hussein is begging his companions, go from here. They don't want your head. You have families. They want me. Imagine arriving in the plains of Karbala, knowing you're far from a water source, seeing the thousands of enemies on that side, being told by Imam Hussein, tomorrow you are going to be killed in the most brutalist way. Your body will be trampled. Your head will be in a spear. Your kids will be orphaned. Your wife will be widowed. And you'll do it while you are thirsty and dying of hunger. And then he says, I lift the bay'at from you. Jannat is there waiting for you. Please go. And not one moved. Because when you are on that path of emulation, nothing else matters but the person you're emulating. Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam is showing Salman al-Farsi, Salman al-Muhammadi, Salman, this is your place in Jannat right here. Look, if you say the word right now, you can leave this world and go live here. And he's showing Salman his place in Jannah. And Salman is asking Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, will you be there beside me in heaven when I go right now? He's like, no, Salman, I still have work to do in this world. He said, then what good is heaven without you, Mawla? Even heaven, after a while, feels empty without the people that you are emulating. Let's humble ourselves, guys. Let's search for ways that we can humble ourselves. Let's search for ways that we can become anonymous. Do things that no one else knows but you and Allah. Not everything needs to be a hashtag. Not everything needs to be a reel or part of IGTV. Not everything needs to be a post. Do it, Baba. Do it quietly. Do it without the cameras. Know that your witness is Allah. He's hadir, He's nadir. He's present, He's watching. He's your ultimate witness. Then and only then can we expect this idea of this humbleness. And then there's no room to feel elite. What eliteness do you feel? What is this idea that you feel like, oh, I am the chosen ones, we are the ones? Baba, if you've done something and you've done it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then that humbleness now is a byproduct of the act that you do. So even within emulation, there's humiliation. Imam Ali says there's no bigger sense of izzah and respect than the fact that I am your abd, and there's no better sense of pride but fakhr, but the fact that you are my Rabb. What a beautiful statement. My izzat is my ubudiyah. My fakhr, my pride is your rububiyah. What a statement. What a statement. Here's a man now, Amir al-Mu'mineen. If anyone has the right to be elite after the Prophet, it's him. In all aspects, in knowledge and piety, bravery, courage, war, compassion, love, you name it, he was elite. The best creation after Rasulullah, bar none. And here he is saying that my respect is in me being zaleel in front of you, me being an abd and a servant in front of you, a slave in front of you. The same Ali that was conquering enemies on the battlefield is the same Ali feeding orphans in the middle of the night. The same Ali now ripping the door of Khaybar, the same Ali that's crying on the musalla in the middle of the night. These are the people that we have to emulate. These are the avenues of our salvation. Let's not be individuals that fall into the trap of shaitan. Inshallah, we'll continue this tomorrow night as well as a final discussion. A few moments of musibah, Ashra Arbaeen. Now this qafla is ready to leave the courtyard of Sham and the prisons of Sham. Yazid now approaches Imam Sajjad and says to him that I am giving you your freedom. Do you have any requests? And Sheikh Abbas Qummi says that Imam Sajjad says, we want to cry for our loved ones. Imagine. Look, when you lose someone who's close to you, right, in the community, I oftentimes, when I go to a mayyat or I go to the cemetery or I attend a funeral, and when the close ones are looking to cry for their deceased. When a son wants to cry for his father, or a husband wants to cry for his wife, or I don't know, a sibling wants to cry for a sibling, and there are people that say, oh, don't cry, don't cry. I always say, look, let them cry. It's very therapeutic to let that grief out. Otherwise, if it's inside, it'll come out in different ways. Has an effect on your mental health, has an effect on your iman sometimes, might even affect and create you to be ill. It's important that we cry and we express that grief. But Imam Sajjad and Bibi Zainab didn't have that opportunity. Anytime they wanted to cry for Hussein, cry for Ali Akbar, cry for Abbas, they would get whipped. Yazid, we want to cry for our loved ones. We want to hold a majlis. We don't want to be bothered. A room is now set up. The heads of the shuhada are brought in one by one now. Rabab cries for her Ali Asghar. Zainab cries for her Hussein. Imam Sajjad cries for his Hussein. The women cry for Abul Fazl. The women cry for Ali Akbar. And now this qafla is ready to go. And Yazid says that Nu'man ibn Bashir will escort you back to Medina. But there'll come a moment that there'll be a fork in the road. One path will lead towards Medina. The other path will lead towards Karbala. You tell him from now, do you want to go back to Medina or do you want to go back to Karbala? Imam Sajjad says to Zainab, Pupi Amma, there comes a moment on our journey back home where one path goes to Medina, one path goes to Karbala. Which way do you want to go? And Zainab now, without any hesitation, says, Sajjad, take me back to Karbala. Let me cry for my Hussein. This qafla now is getting ready now. Everyone is there. The women are mounted. The children are ready. Everyone is there, but Zainab now is missing somebody. Zainab can't find somebody. There's one Rabab that's missing. Nobody can find Rabab. Where is Rabab? Has anyone seen Rabab? Where is Rabab? Rabab is sitting at the grave of Sakina in the Zindan of Sham. This mother now begins to speak to the grave of her 4-year-old daughter. Hey Sakina, you would see these birds going back to Medina. You would ask them where are they going. Why can't we go back home? When will we go back home? When will there be a time where I go back to Medina? Now Rabab says, hey Sakina, rise up from your sleep now. We're going back home now. But Rabab, your Sakina now will lay there forever in the Zindan of Sham, to the point now where when this qafala is ready to leave Karbala and go back to Medina, Zainab says, Rabab, it's time to leave Karbala. It's time to go back to Medina. 3 days during Arbaeen they stayed in Karbala. Rabab looks up to Zainab. Hey Bhabi of mine, I'm going back to Medina. Tell me one thing. My Ali Asghar is here. My Aqa and Mawla Hussein is here. My Shahzadi Sakina is in the Zindan of Sham. If I go back to Medina, who am I going back to? سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. We ask you Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept this qaleel ibadat inshallah. We ask you Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us that tawfiq inshallah to be in Karbala during next year's Arbaeen. We ask you Allah accept our gham and our grief and to make us of those who are beside the Imam when he comes. Matam ya Hussein, ya Hussein.
کربلا تعظیم کر آئے بہن شبیر کی جا کے قدموں سے لپٹ تو زینب دلگیر کی قبر سے بے سر بہتر تن اٹھے تعظیم کو دیکھ استقبال کو ہے فرات شمشیر کی قید سے چھٹ کر ہے آتا قافلہ زوار کا پوچھ لے ان سے ستم زندان کی جاگیر کا کالے میں ہے مل میں ہے بیٹھی بیبیاں سب دکھ جلی داغوں سے چلنی جگر ہے شاہ کی ہمشیر کی ننھی سی تربت علی اصغر کی چھپا لے کر بلا کیا طرف نہ سن سکو گے مادر بے شیر کا مادر اکبر بھی آتی ہے کلیجہ تھام کر وہ گلا کیسے کرے روٹھی ہوئی تقدیر کی. تم سکینہ کو نہ ڈھونڈو تربت عباس پر رہ گئی ہے شام میں وہ لاڈلی شبیر کی. کربلا تعظیم کر آئی بہن شبیر کی.
سادات کربلا سادات کربلا چہلم کو کربلا میں جوانی وہ بیبیاں سادات کربلا سادات کربلا چہلم کو کربلا میں جوانی وہ بیبیاں سادات کربلا سادات کربلا. کچھ بیبیاں یہاں ہیں کچھ بیبیاں وہاں کرتی ہوئی فغاں کرتی ہوئی فغاں. ارے بکھری ہوئی تھی مختلف سرور میں جا بجا سادات کربلا سادات کربلا چہلم کو کربلا میں جوانی وہ بیبیاں سادات کربلا سادات کربلا. ایک بی بی دشت خونی میں جاتی تھی نہر پر کہتی بچشم تر کہتی بچشم تر عباس دینے آئی ہوں پرسا سکینہ کا سادات کربلا سادات کربلا چہلم کو کربلا میں جوانی وہ بیبیاں سادات کربلا سادات کربلا. ارے گھٹ گھٹ کے لاڈلی تیری زندہ میں مر گئی تربت نہیں بنی تربت نہیں بنی. ارے بھیا وہ قید سے نہ ہوئی مٹی بھی جدا سادات کربلا سادات کربلا چہلم کو کربلا میں جوانی وہ بیبیاں سادات کربلا سادات کربلا. اکبر کی قبر پر ہوئی لیلا یوں نوحدر دیکھا نہ سال بھر دیکھا نہ سال بھر. ارے آئی ہوں قید شام سے اب ہو کہ میں رہا سادات کربلا سادات کربلا چہلم کو کربلا میں جوانی وہ بیبیاں سادات کربلا سادات کربلا. بانو یہ بہن کرتی تھی اے میرے بے زبان ماں ڈھونڈے अब कहाँ, मालूम अब कहाँ, बतला दे है कहाँ मेरा असगर है करबला, सादात करबला, सादात करबला, चहलम को करबला में जवाई वो बीबिया, सादात करबला, सादात करबला, कुर्बा तेरे ऐ मेरे माँ जाए बेवतन, मजबूर थी बहन, मजबूर थी बहन, हर जिंदा में मुझसे तेरी अमानत हुई जुदा, सादात करबला, सादात करबला, चहलम को करबला में जवाई वो बीबिया, सादात करबला, सादात करबला, रोते हैं खासवाम तेरे सुन के ये कलाम, ऐ शाह के गुलाम, ऐ शाह के गुलाम, नौहा तेरा अनीस है मकबूल बारगाह, सादात करबला, सादात करबला, चहलम को करबला में जवाई वो बीबिया, सादात करबला, सादात करबला, सादात करबला।
حب الحسين يجمعنا
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم من يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء يا الله يا الله يا الله يا الله يا من لا يقال لغيره يا الله اللهم من علينا برضاك اللهم فك رقابنا من النار اللهم شافي كل مريض خصوصا من دعونا لهم اللهم البسهم ثوب الصحة والعافية يا من اسمه دواء وذكره شفاء اللهم كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل الساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا أبا محمد الحسن بن علي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام على ولي الله وحبيبه. السلام على خليل الله ونجيبه. السلام على صفي الله وابن صفيه. السلام على الحسين المظلوم الشهيد. السلام على أسير الكربات وقتيل العبرات. اللهم إني أشهد أنه وليك وابن وليك وصفيك وابن صفيك الفائز بكرامتك. أكرمته بالشهادة وحبوته بالسعادة واجتبيته بطيب الولادة وجعلته سيدا من السادة وقائدا من القادة وذائدا من الذادة وأعطيته مواريث الأنبياء وجعلته حجة على خلقك من الأوصياء فعذر في الدعاء ومنح النصح وبذل مهجتك فيك ليستنقذ عبادك من الجهالة وحيرة الضلالة. وقد توازر عليه من غرته الدنيا وباع حظه بالأرذل الأدنى وشرى آخرته بالثمن الأوكس وتغطرس وتردى في هواه وأسخطك وأسخط نبيك وأطاع من عبادك أهل الشقاق والنفاق وحملة الأوزار المستوجبين النار فجاهدهم فيك صابرا محتسبا حتى سفك في طاعتك دمه واستبيح حريمه. اللهم فلعنهم لعنا وبيلا وعذبهم عذابا أليما. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله. السلام عليك يا ابن سيد الأوصياء. أشهد أنك أمين الله وابن أمينه. عشت سعيدا ومضيت حميدا ومت فقيدا مظلوما شهيدا. وأشهد أن الله منجز ما وعدك ومهلك من خذلك ومعذب من قتلك. وأشهد أنك وفيت بعهد الله وجاهدت في سبيله حتى أتاك اليقين. فلعن الله من قتلك ولعن الله من ظلمك ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. اللهم إني أشهدك أني ولي لمن والاه وعدو لمن عاداه. بأبي أنت وأمي يا ابن رسول الله. أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة. لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك المدلهمات من ثيابها. وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المسلمين ومعقل المؤمنين، وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرضي الزكي الهادي المهدي، وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وأعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا، وأشهد أني بكم مؤمن وبإيابكم موقن بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي، وقلبي لقلبكم سلم، وأمري لأمركم متبع، ونصرتي لكم معدة حتى يأذن الله لكم، فمعكم لا مع عدوكم. صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وأجسادكم وشاهدكم وغائبكم وظاهركم وباطنكم، آمين رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا زين العابدين وقرة عين الناظرين. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي الباقر. السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد الصادق. السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر الكاظم باب الحوائج. السلام عليك يا علي بن موسى الرضا المرتضى. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي التقي الجواد. السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد النقي الناصح الأمين. السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي الزكي العسكري. السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان سيدي. الأمان 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 من فتنة الزمان. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان. عجل الله لك ما وعدك من النصر وظهور الأمر ورحمة الله وبركاته. والفاتحة مع الصلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
हाय हाय ज़ैनब हाय ज़ैनब हाय हाय ज़ैनब हाय ज़ैनब क्या बीत गई होगी ज़ैनब के दिल पे लोगों। क्या बीत गई होगी ज़ैनब के दिल पे लोगों। ज़ैनब के दिल पे लोगों। रिहाई कैद से ज़ैनब को जब मिली होगी। रिहाई कैद से ज़ैनब को जब मिली होगी।
बिना हुसैन के वो कैसे घर गई होगी।
रिहाई कैद से ज़ैनब को जब मिली होगी। रिहाई कैद से ज़ैनब को जब मिली होगी।
नाना तेरे नवासे को तेरी उम्मत ने दफन किया है और ही बन में छोड़ दिया। हुसैन जा हुसैन, हुसैन जा हुसैन, हुसैन बादशाह, हुसैन शहनशाह, हुसैन दीन है
سے زینب جب ہیر ہوگی.
لٹی تھی دشت میں جو چادریں سیدانیوں کی، لوٹائی عابد بیمار کو لعینوں نے. سجاد ہے سجاد، سجاد ہے سجاد، بیمار کربلا اسیر بے خطا تمہارا قافلہ تو تھا لٹا ہوا پہن کے بیڑیاں. جدھر بھی تو گیا وہ راستہ بھی تھا لہو لہو ہوا. نہ جانے کس طرح یہ تو نے سہ لیا وہ زینب حزین کا سر کھلا ہوا. پھر اس کے بعد بھی تو جب تلک جیا تمہاری آنکھ سے صدا ہے خون بہا. سجاد ہے سجاد ہے سجاد ہے سجاد.
علی کی لاڈلی حسرت سے دیکھتی ہوگی. رہائی قید سے زینب جب ہیر ہوگی. رہائی قید سے زینب جب ہیر ہوگی.
وہ 6 مہینے کے بچے کو تیر مارا تھا، وہ شیر خوار کا سر بھی سینہ پہ آیا تھا. صغیر ہے صغیر، صغیر ہے صغیر، صغیر کربلا ہے کشتہ جفا. کسی کی دشمنی ہے تم سے کیوں بھلا؟ تمہارا سین بھی نہیں ہے جنگ کا، قضا کا تیر ہے بادست حرملا. تمہارا پھول سے بھی نرم ہے گلا. رباب کس طرح کرے گی حوصلہ، خدا را حوصلہ. حسین پر یہی تو وقت ہے کڑا، لہو صغیر کا ہے منہ پہ مل لیا. صغیر ہے صغیر ہے صغیر ہے صغیر.
طول لحد میں منہ اپنا پیٹتی ہوگی. رہائی قید سے زینب جب ہیر ہوگی. رہائی قید سے زینب جب ہیر ہوگی.
گیا جو قافلہ مقتل میں آل احمد کا، ویران دشت میں ہر بی بی اپنے پیاروں کو. جوان ہے جوان، جوان ہے جوان، شبیہ مصطفیٰ وزیر مرتضیٰ. 18 سال سے تو برقعے میں پلا، پھوپھی نے ناز سے تجھے جوان کیا. خدا کے واسطے ابھی نہ رن میں جا. حسین کس طرح یہ دیکھ پائے گا جوان کا جگر، سینہ کا ٹوٹنا. بہن تھی منتظر کہ لوٹ کے تو آ، وہ اب بھی دیکھتی ہے تیرا راستہ. جوان ہے جوان ہے جوان ہے جوان.
سڑکتی دھوپ میں رو رو کے ڈھونڈتی ہوگی. رہائی قید سے زینب جب ہیر ہوگی. رہائی قید سے زینب جب ہیر ہوگی.
سونا جو ہوگا سکینہ میں قبر میں اختر، یہ سب چلے گئے مجھے چھوڑ کے مدینے کو.
معصوم قبر میں تنہا رو رہی ہوگی. رہائی قید سے زینب جب ہیر ہوگی. رہائی قید سے زینب جب ہیر ہوگی. ہے زینب ہے زینب ہے زینب